The fire didn't start with a match. It started with a notice. A simple letter, stamped HOA, left in my mailbox like a curse. They said my porch paint violated community standards. Then came the fines, the threats, the sabotage, and finally, the flames that swallowed my home, my memories, my daughter's childhood in smoke. I thought it was an accident, until I saw the security footage. Then I found the paper trail. When I filed my lawsuit, I expected justice. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. The woman who destroyed my life didn't show up as a defendant. She walked into that courtroom wearing authority like a crown. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about my house. It was about who gets to decide what a home really is. Elena Reyes moved to Willow Creek Estates with her daughter Mia, seeking peace after the loss of her husband. The small craftsman-style home with a wraparound porch and azalea bushes was more than a house. It was a promise of healing. The HOA brochure promised harmony, safety, and community. Her first week was quiet, unpacking, planting marigolds, waving to neighbors. Then came the letter, not a welcome note, a violation notice from Diane Croft, HOA president. Unapproved. Porch paint color must be heritage white per section 5.2. Elena complied, repainting over a weekend. But the notices kept coming. Excessive potted plants, unauthorized wind chime, lawn height inconsistent. Each one carried a $200 fine. She paid, afraid of losing her fresh start. But Diane wasn't stopping. She was testing her, and Elena didn't know it yet. But the war had already begun. The first real blow came in the form of a lien. After 3 months, Elena had paid $2,800 in fines, most for trivial, subjective violations. When she requested a hearing, Diane denied it. Board is not obligated to review minor infractions. Then, without warning, the HOA placed a $12,000 lien on her home for unpaid assessments. Confused, Elena checked her account. Every payment was documented. She filed an appeal. It was ignored. Then, one morning, she found her sprinkler. System destroyed. Pipe slashed. Timer smashed. A note taped to the hose. "Stop fighting. Leave." She called the police. No suspects. No cameras. But she knew. Diane had access to resident records. She knew when Elena was at work. She knew where the system box was. And she knew fear works faster than rules. That night, Elena sat on her porch, watching the dry grass crackle in the sun. This wasn't about rules. It was about erasing her. It started just after midnight. Not with flames, with silence. The power went out. Then a flicker in the garage. Elena woke to smoke. She grabbed Mia and ran. Seconds later, fire engulfed the attached garage, fueled by spilled lawn chemicals and torn insulation. The fire department said it likely started from a wired electrical fault, possibly tampering. The house was uninhabitable. Everything, photos, her husband's journal, Mia's drawings, was lost or damaged. Insurance denied the claim. Suspicious origin, pending investigation. Elena was homeless, broke, and broken. But then, a clue. A neighbor's security camera, not pointed at her house, but at the street, caught a figure in a gray raincoat leaving the area at 11:47 p.m., tall. Familiar stride, and on the wrist, a silver C bracelet, Diane Croft's signature piece. Elena didn't have proof yet, but she had purpose. With no home, Elena moved into a shelter and began digging. She filed public records requests. What she found was worse than she imagined. Diane had voided 3 other liens, then bought the homes at auction for 40% below market. She'd approved. Her brother-in-law's company for emergency electrical work. On the same night, her garage burned. And the HOA's insurance adjuster? Her cousin. It was a system. Not of rules, but of predation. New owners who resisted Diane's control were targeted, fined into debt, forced out, and when they fought, Things accidentally went wrong. Elena compiled everything: emails, contracts, camera footage, lien records. She filed a civil suit for fraud, harassment, and property damage. The court set a hearing date. She thought she'd see Diane in court, but she wasn't prepared for how it would happen. Elena walked into the courtroom expecting a judge in a robe. Instead, she saw Diane Croft, seated at the plaintiff's table wearing a navy blazer, hair perfectly styled, silver C bracelet glinting under the lights. Her heart stopped. Diane wasn't the defendant. She was the court-appointed special master, a neutral evaluator brought in to assess HOA disputes. She had recused herself from the board just days before, a fake resignation. Now she was overseeing her own case. Fayurais. Real judge was delayed. The clerk said, "Ms. Croft will manage preliminary motions." Elena stood, trembling. "This is a conflict of interest. She's the accused." Diane smiled. "I assure the court, I am impartial." The room was silent. Elena realized the system wasn't broken. It was designed this way. Elena didn't wait. She pulled out her laptop, connected it to the courtroom projector, pre-approved for evidence, and played the security footage: the figure in the raincoat, the timestamp, the bracelet. Then the financial trail, the lien, the auction purchases, the contractor payments. Then a recorded phone call. Diane telling her brother-in-law, "Make sure the garage system looks faulty. We'll call it a hazard." The courtroom erupted. The real judge arrived and immediately suspended Diane. State investigators were called in. The lien was voided. The case was reassigned. And Diane? She tried to leave quietly, but the press was outside. The story exploded. 6 months later, Elena stood on a new foundation. Not just a new house, a community center, funded by a state grant for HOA reform, built on the lot where her home once stood. Mia planted the first flower. The center offered legal aid for homeowners, transparency training, and a resident oversight board. Diane Croft was under investigation. Her properties were frozen. Her brother-in-law arrested for insurance fraud. She never apologized, but she was gone. When Elena opened the doors of the center, she didn't feel anger. She felt peace. Her house was gone. But her voice? It was louder than ever, and when she saw a woman in a gray raincoat walking down the street, she didn't flinch. She waved, because this time she wasn't afraid.